Hey, today I'm talking about the first 3 films in the Herbie franchise. And the names of those 3 movies are The Love Bug, Herbie Rides Again, and Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. First up is The Love Bug. This is a 1968 film, and I'll be honest, I went into this whole series with pretty low expectations. Like, they're silly children's movies from the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and the aughts. They're probably going to be really childish. The jokes aren't going to land. There's no way me as a grown adult is going to find this fun. But yeah, no, I couldn't have been more wrong. This film is so delightful and charming and funny. I was laughing the entire way through. Well, almost the entire way through. I will say it did take me a little bit to get into the movie, but once Herbie was up to his hijinks, I was along for the ride and could not have been happier. If you're unfamiliar, the basic premise is Herbie is this VW Volkswagen that has a soul of his own and has an entire personality. He has been bouncing around owners for a bit and has found his way to Jim Douglas, who is a struggling race car driver. They end up teaming up and hilarity ensues, and it's great. I'm just so surprised by the fact of how much I was taken by all of the silliness in this film. If Herbie had a shenanigan up his sleeve, I was right beside him, enjoying myself to no end. And he's in most of the movie. Like, there's hardly any scenes that don't feature him and his silly shenanigans. I was surprised too with the fact that he doesn't really communicate, and actually his being aliveness was intentionally kept a secret from Jim for at least half the film, because his partner, Tennessee, immediately recognizes Herbie's sentience, and not only that, recognizes the specialness of it. And I really just loved that relationship that he had with Herbie, and I remember loving that aspect as a kid, because I have seen these movies before, but it's been probably about 25-30 years, so I don't really remember them. I do remember little bits and pieces, like I did remember the end of the race, but it was still so delightful and fun to see. I gotta say, Michelle Lee is so gorgeous in this, kind of distractingly beautiful, but also her characterization was just brilliant. She had an incredibly expressive face, and she really captured this smart, strong-willed woman. Like, she is in a world of men, but like she easily stands on her own. She is without a doubt a feminist icon, and I am all for it. What I love too is that, like, technically there is a bit of a romance in the film, but like the main character's primary love is racing. That does line up with primary female character's interest is racing and automobiles. So like their romance is built around shared interests and then their shared love of Herbie as they get to know him. And I think it was a very naturally realistic love story that happens here. So I dug that. I will say there is a surprising amount of alcohol in this. Like, it's a Disney movie. Wasn't expecting really any alcohol, but not only was there multiple scenes featuring alcohol, it played an incredibly important plot point to the film. It was integral to the entire story that a couple of the characters, including Herbie himself, get wasted, which is just wild, but I love it. Also, Herbie attempts suicide at one point, which just floored me. I think it's handled well though. I loved it. But yeah, no, they made kids movies way different back in the day, and I am a fan. So yeah, no, like, this movie is silly, it's fun, it's ridiculous, and it just charmed me to no end. So yeah, no, I loved it to pieces and would wholeheartedly recommend it. I don't guarantee that you're gonna be as charmed as me, because like I didn't even realize I was gonna get so charmed by it, but I definitely think it's worth giving a shot. Worst case, you just turn it off. Give this movie a chance. It totally deserves it because it's just so great. Next up is Herbie Rides Again. This is a 1974 film, and it's interesting in that the only character from the first one to come back is Herbie, but it does still have the same location as the first one, which was primarily like this old firehouse. So the main characters of this, there's a little old lady who owns the firehouse, and she's a relative of the mechanic from the first one, and then it's just like people connected to her. And then the plot is completely different. There's basically no racing besides like car chase stuff that occasionally happens. The plot is this greedy man who just loves blowing up buildings professionally and developing them, wants to buy the firehouse to turn it into like a hotel thing or whatever, but she says no, and so like he's just trying to strong arm her into giving him the land, and eventually resorts to illegal tactics. So like that's what the movie's about, and like Herbie's just there causing chaos, and I'm all for it. Like I was so surprised that with no returning cast members that I still was so incredibly charmed by this movie. I mean, it's really Herbie. Herbie is just so delightful. His hijinks are brilliant. Like there's a scene where he's chasing birds on a beach, and I'm just like, I love this. Or there's a whole sequence where Herbie is inside and outside a high-rise skyscraper. There's a scene with a bunch of soap there. They also go out onto the ledge. It's so silly and ridiculous, but delightful and charming, and I couldn't get enough of it. It was great. I will say I didn't like the villain, the guy who likes blowing up buildings. He just shouts constantly, and I'm just not a fan of that. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of nuance to him. He's just constantly angry, shaking his fist at the world. I think had they just kind of toned him down a little bit, or made him just a little bit more clever, I would have been more fine with him. It didn't really bring down the movie a whole lot, but it did affect it a bit. There is, again, a love story in this movie that did feel mostly natural. I did love the flight attendant character. She's another very strong-willed woman. She is a little violent occasionally, but the violence is pretty fun and sort of justified. She's just great. So yeah, no, again, I enjoyed this movie a whole lot and would again recommend it. I do think it's a tiny step down from the first one, but it's still a great film that is totally worth a watch. So if you enjoyed the first one, definitely follow it up with this guy. You're gonna be in for a treat. You could just go into this one if racing isn't your scene, but Saving a Firehouse is. I get that. I did like the first one more, but like, to each their own. So yeah, no, thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Totally recommend. And lastly is Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. This is a 1977 film. It again stars the man from the first movie, Dean Jones, who plays Jim Douglas, and also features Don Knotts. And the basic premise is Jim hasn't raced in like 12 years, so he wants to stage his big comeback by doing a big old race in Europe. Don Knotts is a mechanic and is just along for the ride to help out. There's also a jewel heist that happened where Herbie gets implicated in it, and then also Herbie finds another car that he is wildly attracted to and just has like this huge storyline thing with her. That's the love story of this one. Jim does have another love interest, but he's kind of the weakest character. And again, it was pretty dang fun. I do think this was a little bit of a step down, but it was still delightful, fun, and charming. Again, every Herbie hijinks always gets me. I think bringing Jim back was a good idea. It was a nice, interesting story. I wish they would have brought Michelle Lee's character back as well, but it's fine. Don Knotts, I was kind of expecting more Don Knotts-isms from this, and I feel like he was pretty tame. I've seen a number of films with him besides just the Andy Griffith Show, so I was kind of expecting more zaniness from him, but it honestly feels like he held himself back, which is fine. I think he could have gone a little bit further, but where he was at was not bad. Honestly, my biggest complaint about the movie is the female lead, Diane Darcy. The actor did fine, Julie Summers. It was just the characterization of her, because she felt very, I'm trying really hard to be a feminist icon without actually being a feminist icon. Like, she was very whiny and it seemed like she was always trying to make something out of something. I don't know. It just didn't quite land the same way. I think it was just more noticeable because the first two films had such strong female characters. To kind of go from that to this was a bit jarring. It's like they kind of missed some of the magic of the other women in the series. I think a little thing that could have helped is just not having her be American, because it felt just kind of weird since they're in Paris and they're dealing with all these other international racers that it's just like another American is the other lead of the film. And they do have foreign actors within the film, so yeah, I don't know. Regardless though, I still enjoyed this film a good solid amount. It's a quite liked, so it's basically a 4 out of 5 from me. It doesn't hit the heights of the other ones, but it is definitely not even close to being a bad time. So if you enjoyed the first two, I would say keep on going. This film's great. If you weren't really a fan of the other two, I don't know if this one would really turn it around for you, but it could be worth checking out if you're feeling it. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it a good solid amount, and I would totally recommend it. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got The Love Bug sitting at number 1 in the Really Like section. After that is Herbie Rides Again, sitting at number 2, again in the Really Like section. And then bringing up the rear is Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, sitting at number 3 in the Quite Like section. And this is out of a total of 3 new movies so far this year.